The Kobali Empire's hidden fleet was our downfall, or so they thought. Admiral Taurus stood on the bridge of his flagship, surveying the burning cities of Earth below. The year was 2150 AD, and humanity's defenses had crumbled like paper before the Kobali onslaught. Our orbital platforms lay in ruins, our ground forces scattered and overwhelmed. Victory seemed assured for the technologically superior aliens. But Admiral Taurus didn't smile as he issued his ultimatum to the battered remnants of the United Earth Defense Force. Surrender within 48 hours, or we will commence orbital bombardment. His mandibles clicked in irritation. Something wasn't right. The human resistance had proven more troublesome than anticipated. A small group of warships led by the UES Defiant had been wreaking havoc on Kobali supply lines through hit-and-run attacks. Their leader, a Captain Jason Gray, displayed tactical acumen that bordered on prescient. Taurus's unease grew as reports filtered in of yet another successful raid by Gray's forces. How were these primitive humans managing to outmaneuver his invasion fleet? The answer came moments later as a junior officer burst onto the bridge. "Admiral, we've detected a massive energy signature on the dark side of the moon. It appears to be a hidden human fleet." Taurus's compound eyes widened in shock. Impossible. Their intelligence had been thorough. Earth had no such forces in reserve. And yet, on the lunar surface, alarms blared throughout a secret base. Captain Gray's voice crackled over the comms. "This is Gray. Kobali forces have found us. Activate Project Phoenix immediately." Deep within the hidden facility, row after row of sleek warships hummed to life. These vessels represented humanity's final hope, a secret fleet of advanced craft that had remained cloaked and dormant, waiting for this moment. Gray's ship, the battle-scarred Defiant, limped toward the moon. Plasma scoring marred its hull, evidence of desperate battles fought to buy time for this revelation. Kobali interceptors swarmed in its wake, determined to stop the humans from reaching their secret weapon. As the Defiant neared the lunar base, Gray gritted his teeth. They were so close. If they could just hold out a little longer, humanity might have a fighting chance. The fate of Earth hung in the balance as his battered ship raced the clock. In orbit, Admiral Taurus barked orders. "All ships converge on that moon. Destroy whatever the humans are hiding there." He'd been outplayed, but perhaps it wasn't too late to crush this unexpected resistance. Two fleets converged on the lunar base, one limping and desperate, the other confident and overwhelming. As Gray's ship docked with the hidden facility, teams of engineers rushed to bring the Phoenix fleet online. The next few minutes would determine the course of the war. Would humanity's hidden fleet turn the tide against the Kobali invaders? Or would Admiral Taurus snuff out Earth's last hope before it could take flight? As klaxons wailed and ships powered up, one thing became clear. The real battle for Earth was only just beginning. The UES Defiant shuddered as another volley of Kobali fire grazed its hull. Captain Jason Gray's fingers tightened as he gripped the helm controls, guiding the battered ship through a treacherous field of orbital debris. "Shields at 12%, his tactical officer reported, voice tight with tension. "We can't take another direct hit, sir." Gray's eyes darted across the view screen, searching for an opening. A massive piece of what used to be an orbital defense platform loomed ahead, and an idea sparked in his mind. "All power to forward thrusters," he ordered. "We're going to thread the needle." The Defiant surged forward, plunging into a narrow gap between two colliding chunks of debris. Alarms blared as jagged metal scraped against the ship's hull, but Gray held steady. Behind them, two Kobali interceptors attempted to follow, only to be crushed in the shifting maze of wreckage. As they emerged from the debris field, the lunar surface filled their view. A faint energy signature pulsed on their sensors, growing stronger with each passing second. "It's real," Gray breathed, a mix of relief and anticipation in his voice. "Project Phoenix. It actually exists." The Defiant limped towards the moon, its pursuers lost in the orbital chaos. As they approached, the energy signature persisted into a clear signal emanating from the lunar surface. A hidden docking port irised open, beckoning them to safety. Gray guided the ship into the concealed hangar, touching down with a gentle thud. As the airlock cycled, he turned to his crew. Well done, everyone, but our job's just the beginning. The moment Gray stepped off the Defiant, he was greeted by a stern-faced woman in an admiral's uniform. Captain Gray, she said, extending her hand. I'm Admiral Sarah Chen. Welcome to Project Phoenix. Gray shook her hand, taking in the bustling activity of the secret base. Technicians swarmed over sleek warships, unlike anything he'd seen before. Admiral, what exactly are we dealing with here? Chen's lips curled into a small smile. The future of humanity, Captain. Follow me. As they walked, Chen explained the origins of Project Phoenix. 50 ships, each incorporating technology reverse-engineered from a Kobali scout ship we recovered decades ago. But the real game-changer is the UES Lazarus. She led Gray to a viewport overlooking a massive docking bay. Inside sat a behemoth of a ship, its hull gleaming with an otherworldly sheen. Our prototype dreadnought, Chen said with pride, equipped with a plasma-based weapon system that can cut through Kobali shields like butter. Gray whistled low. This could turn the tide of the entire war. Before Chen could respond, alarms blared throughout the base. A panicked voice came over the intercom. Kobali forces have breached the outer defenses. All personnel to battle stations. Chen's expression hardened. Gray, I need you to defend the main reactor. If it goes down, we lose everything. I'll oversee the fleet launch. Gray nodded, already moving. Understood, Admiral. Good luck. He quickly assembled a squad of Marines and headed for the reactor core. The sounds of battle echoed through the corridors, energy weapons discharging, the clang of metal on metal, and the all-too-human cries of the wounded. As they neared the reactor, Gray held up a fist, signaling his team to halt. He peered around a corner, spotting a group of Kobali soldiers advancing down the hallway. Their insectoid forms moved with an unsettling grace, energy rifles at the ready. Gray turned to his squad. We know this base. They don't. Use that to our advantage. He quickly outlined a plan, and his Marines nodded in understanding. What followed was a deadly game of cat and mouse through the twisting corridors of the lunar base. Gray's team used their knowledge of the layout to outmaneuver the Kobali, setting up ambushes and using maintenance tunnels to flank their opponents. Meanwhile, in the command center, Admiral Chin watched with growing concern as Kobali ships formed a blockade around the moon. We can't launch into that, she muttered. Her eyes fell on a panel labeled Phase Shift Device, Experimental. A risky plan formed in her mind. Prepare for phase shift launch, she ordered. We're going through the moon itself. As engineers scrambled to comply, Chin opened a channel to the entire base. All personnel, prepare for immediate evacuation to the Phoenix fleet. This is not a drill. In the reactor chamber, Gray and his Marines had their backs to the wall. Kobali forces pressed in from all sides, their advanced weaponry slowly overwhelming the human defenders. Gray's mind raced, searching for a solution. His eyes fell on the reactor's power distribution panel, and an idea struck. Cover me, he shouted, sprinting towards the panel. Energy bolts sizzled past him as he reached it, fingers flying over the controls. With a final keystroke, he overloaded the base's power core. A wave of electromagnetic energy surged outward, temporarily disabling the Kobali's weapons. Now, Gray yelled. Fall back to the hangar. As they retreated, the countdown for the phase shift device ticked away. Gray and his team were the last to board, diving into the Lazarus as its boarding ramp began to close. The entire fleet shuddered as the phase shift activated. For a moment, reality seemed to blur. Then, with a lurch that sent everyone stumbling, the ships of Project Phoenix emerged from the far side of the moon. On the bridge of the Lazarus, Gray picked himself up off the floor to find Admiral Chen already issuing orders. All ships, form up. Prepare to engage the Kobali fleet. As the Phoenix fleet accelerated towards Earth, a transmission came through from the planet's surface. The UEDF High Command, reinvigorated by the appearance of the secret fleet, had rejected Taurus's ultimatum. The remaining human forces were rallying for a counterattack. Chen turned to Gray, her eyes alight with commitment. Captain, take the helm. Let's show these Kobali what humanity is truly capable of. Gray settled into the captain's chair, hands dancing over the controls as he brought the Lazarus into formation. Ahead lay the Kobali Armada, a vast array of alien ships between them and Earth. The decisive battle for humanity's future was about to begin. The Lazarus surged forward, leading the charge of the Phoenix fleet. Captain Gray's hands danced across the controls, guiding the massive dreadnought through the chaotic orbital battlefield. Explosions bloomed in silent flashes as Kobali ships fell to the humans' advanced weaponry. "Target the lead cruiser," Admiral Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the stakes. "Let's show them what this ship can do." Gray nodded, lining up the shot. The Lazarus's main cannon hummed to life, a sound that reverberated through the entire ship. A lance of superheated plasma erupted from the bow, slicing through the Kobali cruiser's shields as if they were tissue paper. The alien vessel split apart, secondary explosions tearing it to shreds. "Direct hit," the weapons officer called out, a note of awe in his voice. Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Excellent. All ships, press the advantage. Don't let them regroup." As the space battle intensified, the situation on the ground was equally fierce. In the ruins of New York City, Major Marcus Steele crouched behind a burned-out car, surveying the Kobali command center. The alien structure loomed over the shattered cityscape, its architecture a mockery of human design. "Delta Team, are you in position?" Steele whispered into his comm. "Affirmative, sir," came the reply. "Waiting on your signal." Steele took a deep breath, then gave the order. "Execute." His resistance fighters moved with practiced precision, emerging from hidden positions throughout the debris-strewn streets. They struck from multiple angles, catching the Kobali defenders off guard. Steele led the charge, his rifle spitting fire as he advanced on the command center. The aliens responded quickly, their insectoid forms skittering into defensive positions. Energy weapons lit up the night, forcing the humans to duck and weave through the urban battlefield. Steele's team used every trick they'd learned in months of guerrilla warfare: false retreats, improvised explosives, and lightning-fast strike teams. Slowly but surely, they pushed the Kobali back. Steele's boot crashed through the command center's door, his team flooding in behind him. They secured the facility room by room, neutralizing the alien defenders with brutal efficiency. As the last Kobali fell, Steele approached a bank of alien computers. "Tech team, get to work," he ordered. "We need everything they've got." In orbit, Admiral Taurus watched the battle unfold with growing fury. His mandibles clicked in agitation as another of his ships succumbed to the humans' advanced weaponry. "How?" he snarled. "How did they hide this fleet from us?" His tactical officer, a lower-ranking Kobali, ventured an answer. "The humans seem to have reverse-engineered some of our technology, Admiral. Their ships bear similarities to—" Taurus cut him off with a wave of his clawed hand. "I can see that, fool. The question is what we do about it." His compound eyes narrowed as he studied the battle formations. "That ship," he said, indicating the Lazarus. "It's the key. Destroy it, and their fleet will crumble." He issued a series of rapid-fire orders, redirecting his forces to focus on the human dreadnought. Taurus's own flagship, a massive vessel overflowing with weapons, moved to engage the Lazarus directly. On the Lazarus's bridge, Gray noticed the shift in Kobali tactics. "Admiral," he called out to Chen, "they're targeting us specifically. Taurus must have realized we're the linchpin." Chen nodded, her mind racing through potential strategies. "Can we use that against them? Draw them into a trap?" Gray's eyes lit up. "If we can lure Taurus's flagship into the right position, we might be able to cut off their command and control." "Do it," Chen ordered, "but be careful. We can't afford to lose this ship." Gray took manual control of the Lazarus, his piloting skills pushed to the limit as he wove the enormous vessel through the chaos of battle. He led Taurus on a deadly dance, always staying just out of reach of the Kobali's most devastating weapons. The rest of the Phoenix fleet adjusted their formation, subtly moving into position for the trap. Taurus, blinded by his focus on the Lazarus, failed to notice the noose slowly tightening around his forces. As the space battle reached its fever pitch, Major Steele's team made a breakthrough on the ground. "Sir," one of his tech specialists called out, "we've cracked their communications encryption. We're reading everything they're sending. Steele rushed over, his eyes widening as he scanned the alien text. This is their entire defensive grid, he breathed. Quick, transmit this to the fleet. It could turn the tide up there. The data streamed up to the Lazarus, where Admiral Chen received it with growing excitement. Gray, she called out, we've got their playbook, reconfiguring our weapons now. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Phoenix fleet's already formidable weapons now struck with surgical precision, exploiting weaknesses in the Kobali defenses that the aliens didn't even know they had. But victory was far from assured. As the Lazarus drew Taurus deeper into the trap, the ship took hit after hit. Alarms blared across the bridge as systems began to fail. Shields down to 30%, the tactical officer reported, strain evident in his voice. We can't take much more of this. Gray's hands tightened on the controls. Just a little longer, he muttered. Almost there. Suddenly, new contacts appeared on the long-range sensors. A massive Kobali reinforcement fleet, previously hidden in the outer solar system, was bearing down on Earth. Chen's face paled. We don't have the numbers to hold against that, she said. But then a smile crept across her face. Fortunately, we've got one more ace up our sleeve. She input a series of commands, activating a hidden network of automated defense platforms scattered throughout the solar system. As the Kobali reinforcements approached, they found themselves under attack from all sides. Powerful long-range weapons fire erupted from seemingly empty space, tearing into the surprised alien ships. Back in New York, Steele's team faced a new challenge. Massive Kobali battle mechs stomped through the streets, their heavy weapons devastating human positions. We need to take one of those down, Steele growled. Better yet, let's take it intact. Ramirez, Johansson, you're with me. We're going mech hunting. As Steele's team set off to hijack one of the alien war machines, the space battle reached its climax. The Lazarus, battered but unbroken, faced off against Taurus's flagship. The two colossal ships circled each other, trading devastating blows. Gray's trap was set. Now all he needed was for Taurus to take the bait. He put the Lazarus into a controlled spin, feigning more damage than they'd actually taken. Taurus, sensing victory, pressed his attack. It was exactly what Gray had been waiting for. Now, he shouted, all ships, execute maneuver Phoenix Rising. The trap was sprung. Kobali ships found themselves caught in a deadly crossfire as the Phoenix fleet emerged from hiding spots amidst the debris field. Taurus's flagship, suddenly alone and vulnerable, was pounded from all sides by human weapons fire. But the Kobali admiral was not defeated yet. His return fire rocked the Lazarus, sending crew members sprawling across the bridge. A critical hit took out the main engines, leaving the human dreadnought drifting and vulnerable. As warning klaxons blared and damage reports flooded in, Gray and Chen exchanged a grim look. The fate of the battle, and possibly the entire war, now hung in the balance. The Lazarus, humanity's greatest weapon, was wounded and exposed. Taurus's flagship loomed ever closer, its weapons primed for a killing blow. In the streets of New York, Steele's team crept towards their target, a Kobali battle mech that stood apart from the others, its pilot distracted by the ongoing combat. On the outskirts of the solar system, the automated defense platforms continued to harry the Kobali reinforcements, buying precious time for the embattled human forces. The next few moments would determine the course of the war. Would the daring plan of the Phoenix fleet succeed? Could Steele's team turn the aliens' own weapons against them? And would the damaged Lazarus find a way to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat? As both sides prepared for their next move, the battle for Earth's future raged on, its outcome still uncertain. As alarms blared across the Lazarus's bridge, Gray's mind raced. The ship was crippled, but he wasn't out of options yet. He locked eyes with Chen, a silent understanding passing between them. Initiate Protocol Omega, Gray ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. Chen nodded, quickly inputting a series of commands into her console. The lights on the bridge dimmed, power redirecting to essential systems. All hands, brace for impact! Gray's voice echoed through the ship's intercom. The Kobali flagship loomed ever closer, its weapons charging for what Taurus surely thought would be the killing blow. But Gray had other plans. Just as the alien vessel came within striking distance, Gray activated the Lazarus's experimental phase shift technology. The air around the ship seemed to ripple and distort. Taurus, his compound eyes widening in surprise, realized too late what was happening. His flagship passed harmlessly through the Lazarus, its energy weapons discharging into empty space. "Now," Gray shouted, "all ships, execute maneuver Phoenix Rising." As if materializing from thin air, the rest of the Phoenix fleet emerged from their hiding spots within the debris field. They had been there all along, waiting for this moment. A synchronized barrage of plasma weaponry erupted from the human ships, focusing on specific weak points of the Kobali flagship. On the bridge of her secondary command vessel, Admiral Chen watched the plan unfold with grim satisfaction. "Concentrate fire on grid sectors 7 through 9, she ordered. "That's where Steele's intel says their shields are weakest." The precision of the attack caught the Kobali completely off guard. Their shields, designed to withstand brute force, crumbled under the surgical strikes of the human fleet. Meanwhile, on the streets of New York, Major Steele's team was enacting their own daring plan. Sergeant Alex Donovan crouched behind a pile of rubble, eyeing the towering Kobali battle mech that stood apart from the others. "Ramirez, Johansson, you ready?" Steele's voice crackled over the comm. "Ready, sir," Ramirez confirmed. "On your mark," Johansson added. Steele took a deep breath. "Go!" The three of them sprinted from cover, dodging energy blasts and leaping over debris. Donovan reached the mech first, quickly locating the access panel they'd identified in their intelligence briefings. As Ramirez and Johansson provided covering fire, Donovan's fingers flew over the alien controls. Years of training in xenotechnology paid off as he bypassed the Kobali security protocols. The mech's cockpit hissed open. Donovan vaulted inside, his hands finding the control interfaces. The alien technology responded to his touch, the mech coming to life around him. "I'm in," Donovan reported, a hint of awe in his voice. "This thing's more intuitive than I expected." Steele allowed himself a small smile. "Good work. Now let's show these bugs what their own tech can do." Donovan turned the mech, its massive frame pivoting with surprising grace. He targeted a group of Kobali soldiers, the mech's weapons systems responding to his thoughts almost faster than he could process them. Energy beams lanced out, vaporizing the alien troops. Confusion spread through the Kobali ranks as one of their own war machines turned against them. In orbit, the space battle had reached its climax. The Kobali flagship, its shields failing and hull breached in multiple places, listed to one side. Admiral Taurus, his mandibles clicking in fury, realized he'd been outmaneuvered. "All power to engines," he shrieked. "Ram them! Take out their command ship!" But Gray had anticipated this move. As the Kobali vessel surged forward, he activated the Lazarus's phase shift technology once more. The alien flagship passed through them, emerging on the other side to find itself surrounded by the rest of the Phoenix fleet. "All ships, open fire!" Chen ordered. A devastating barrage tore into the Kobali flagship. Explosions blossomed along its hull, secondary detonations rippling through its superstructure. The massive ship broke apart, debris scattering across the orbital battlefield. A cheer went up from the human forces, but Gray knew better than to celebrate too soon. "Status report," he called out. "Shields at 15%, sir," his tactical officer responded. "Main engines still offline, but auxiliary power is holding." Gray nodded, his mind already racing ahead to the next phase of the battle. But before he could issue new orders, a priority alert flashed across his console. "Admiral," he called out to Chen, "we've got new contacts incoming. A lot of them." Chen's face tightened as she studied the sensor data. "Another Kobali fleet," she confirmed, "emerging from FTL near Mars." Gray zoomed in on the lead ship, his blood running cold as he recognized the configuration. "It's Commander Verax," he said, "the Kobali's most unpredictable tactician." As if to confirm Gray's assessment, Verax's fleet immediately began employing hit-and-run tactics against the outer edges of the Phoenix fleet. Human ships already battered from the main engagement found themselves under constant harassment. Chen's mind raced, weighing options and calculating risks. "Gray," she said finally, "take half the fleet and engage Verax. I'll finish things here. Gray nodded, already selecting the ships for his task force. As he prepared to depart, a transmission came through from Earth. It was Dr. Emily Sato, her face flushed with excitement. "Admiral, Captain," she said, "we've made a breakthrough. There's a vulnerability in the Kabali neural interface systems. If we can exploit it, we might be able to disable their entire fleet." Chen leaned forward, hope kindling in her eyes. "What do you need?" "We've developed a prototype device," Sato explained, "but it needs to be deployed aboard a Kabali command ship." Chen exchanged a glance with Gray. It was a long shot, but it might be their best chance at turning the tide. "I have an idea," Chen said, "but it's going to take our best people and a whole lot of luck." As Chen began outlining her plan, Gray turned his attention to the new threat. Verax's fleet danced at the edges of the battle, striking and withdrawing before the humans could effectively retaliate. The Lazarus, still recovering from its near destruction, limped into formation with the rest of Gray's task force. As they set course for Mars and the new Kabali fleet, Gray couldn't shake the feeling that the true test was yet to come. On Earth, Donovan's commandeered mech continued to wreak havoc on Kabali positions. Major Steele, coordinating from a hidden command post, directed strikes against alien supply lines and communication hubs. But the Kabali were rallying, launching a fierce counteroffensive to recapture their lost war machine. Donovan found himself surrounded, the mech systems warning of multiple incoming threats. As battles raged across Earth and throughout the solar system, a small, sleek shuttle departed from the Lazarus. Inside, Lieutenant Commander James Harper and his elite team prepared for their daring mission. They carried with them Dr. Sato's prototype device, and with it, perhaps humanity's last best hope for victory. The shuttle accelerated towards Verax's flagship, using the chaos of battle as cover. Harper checked his gear one last time, his expression grim but determined. "Remember," he told his team, "we get in, plant the device, and get out. The fate of Earth depends on us." As the shuttle approached its target, the battle for humanity's future entered its most critical phase. Harper's modified shuttle glided silently through the debris-strewn space surrounding Verax's flagship. The vessel's experimental stealth systems rendered it nearly invisible to Kabali sensors, allowing the small craft to approach undetected. 30 seconds to contact," the pilot whispered, his hands steady on the controls. Harper nodded, double-checking his equipment one last time. "Remember," he told his team, "we're ghosts, in and out without a trace." The shuttle latched onto a maintenance airlock with a muffled thunk. Harper's team, clad in sleek infiltration suits, moved swiftly into the alien vessel. As they navigated the twisting corridors of the Kabali ship, Captain Gray led the remaining Phoenix fleet in a series of lightning-fast strikes against Verax's forces near Mars. The space around the red planet became a deadly dance of energy weapons and missiles, punctuated by the silent explosions of destroyed ships. "Bravo, Squadron! Target their port flank," Gray ordered, his voice calm despite the chaos unfolding on his view screens. "Charlie Squadron, prepare to engage on my mark." The human ships darted in and out of the Martian orbital lanes, striking hard and fast before retreating. Debris from destroyed vessels created an ever-shifting maze of obstacles, forcing both sides to adapt their tactics constantly. On Earth, Major Steele coordinated a global assault from his makeshift command center. "All units, commence Operation Wildfire," he broadcast on a secure channel. "I repeat, Operation Wildfire is a go." Across the planet, hidden resistance cells sprang into action. In the ruins of Paris, a team of hackers unleashed a virus into the Kabali communication network. In the jungles of Brazil, guerrilla fighters destroyed a key power distribution node, plunging an entire Kabali base into darkness. Sergeant Donovan, piloting his captured battle mech through the devastated streets of London, led the charge against the aliens' primary ground base. The massive war machine moved with surprising grace, its weapons systems responding to Donovan's thoughts almost instantly. "This is Donovan," he reported, his voice tight with concentration. "Approaching the main gates now, requesting fire support." A barrage of artillery fire erupted from hidden human positions, hammering the Kabali defenses. Donovan used the confusion to breach the perimeter, the mech's energy weapons carving a path of destruction through the alien fortifications. In orbit, Admiral Chen noticed a shift in the Kabali fleet's behavior. The alien ships began to adopt a more defensive posture, their movements becoming more reactive than proactive. "They're off balance," Chen muttered, studying the tactical display. "Taurus's loss hit them harder than we thought. All ships press the attack, target their support vessels and logistics hubs." The Phoenix fleet surged forward, capitalizing on the Kabali's momentary weakness. Human fighters swarmed around the larger alien vessels, striking at vulnerable points with surgical precision. Back on Verax's flagship, Harper's team encountered their first real obstacle. A group of Kabali engineers rounded a corner, their compound eyes widening in surprise at the sight of the human intruders. "Split up," Harper ordered without hesitation. "Johnson, Reyes with me. The rest of you, create a diversion." As half the team engaged the Kabali, drawing them away from the ship's central hub, Harper and his two remaining squad mates pressed on towards their objective. They moved quickly through the alien corridors, their path guided by intelligence gathered from the captured command center on Earth. In her lab, Dr. Sato worked feverishly to refine the neural interface disruptor. Her eyes widened as new data scrolled across her screen. "This changes everything," she breathed, immediately contacting Admiral Chen. Chen listened intently to Sato's explanation, her mind racing with the implications. "We need to get this information to Harper," she said, but a standard transmission would compromise their position. After a moment's thought, Chen devised a daring plan. She ordered a small squad of Phoenix fighters to launch a seemingly suicidal attack run on Verax's flagship. As the Kabali focused on this new threat, a narrow-beam transmission containing Sato's crucial update reached Harper's team undetected. Harper received the data, quickly adjusting the prototype device. "This better work, Doc," he muttered, continuing towards the ship's nerve center. As the infiltration team neared their goal, alarms began to blare throughout the Kabali vessel. Harper's diversion team had been discovered, and security forces were now on high alert. "We're blown," Johnson hissed, checking his weapon. "What now, sir?" Harper's mind raced, weighing their options. "We push on," he decided. "The mission is all that matters now." They fought their way through increasing resistance, Harper's expert marksmanship and Rhea's close-quarters combat skills keeping them alive. Finally, they reached the central control hub, the heart of the Kabali neural interface system. As Johnson stood guard, Harper and Reyes began the delicate process of integrating Sato's device into the alien technology. The task was made more difficult by the constant threat of discovery, with Kabali security forces drawing ever closer. "We're out of time," Johnson warned, the sound of approaching footsteps echoing down the corridor. Harper made a split-second decision. "Reyes, Johnson, get out of here. I'll finish this and hold them off." His teammates hesitated, but years of training kicked in. They knew the mission came first. With a final nod of respect, they retreated, leaving Harper alone to complete their task. As Kabali forces breached the control hub, Harper activated the neural interface disruptor. A wave of energy pulsed outward, flooding the Kabali neural network with chaos. On the bridge of his flagship, Commander Verax suddenly clutched his head in agony, his mandibles clicking in distress. The effect spread rapidly, jumping from ship to ship across the entire Kabali fleet. Admiral Chen, watching the Kabali forces fall into disarray, recognized the success of Harper's mission. "All ships, this is our moment," she broadcast to the Phoenix fleet. "Press the attack. Show no mercy." Captain Gray, seeing the Kabali fleet near Mars thrown into chaos, seized the initiative. "All squadrons, form up on me," he ordered. "We're taking out Verax's flagship." As the human forces surged forward on all fronts, the tide of the battle began to shift. The Kabali invasion fleet around Earth crumbled under the renewed assault, while on the ground, Major Steele's troops made significant gains against the increasingly disorganized alien forces. Yet even as victory seemed within reach, questions remained. The fate of Lieutenant Commander Harper was unknown, lost in the chaos aboard Verax's flagship. And while the neural interface disruption had clearly had a massive impact, the full extent of its effects was yet to be determined. As the battle raged on, the final outcome still hung in the balance. The war for Earth's future had entered its most critical phase, with both sides pushing themselves to the limit in a desperate struggle for survival. As Harper activated the neural interface disruptor, a wave of invisible energy pulsed outward from Verax's flagship. The effect was nearly instantaneous. Across the Kobali fleet, alien crew members suddenly clutched their heads, mandibles clicking in distress. The once coordinated armada devolved into chaos, ships drifting aimlessly or spinning out of control. Captain Gray, observing the sudden shift from the bridge of the Lazarus, didn't hesitate. "All squadrons, form up on me," he ordered, his voice steady despite the surge of adrenaline. "We're taking out Verax's flagship. Concentrate fire on their propulsion and weapon systems." The Phoenix fleet near Mars unleashed a devastating barrage. Energy beams and missiles streaked across the void, finding their marks with pinpoint accuracy. Kobali ships, their crews incapacitated, offered little resistance. Explosions blossomed silently in the vacuum of space as vital systems were systematically destroyed. On Earth, the effects of the neural disruption rippled through the Kobali ground forces. Major Steele, monitoring the situation from his hidden command post, watched in amazement as alien troops suddenly lost all cohesion. The Kobali's advanced weaponry fell silent, their movements uncoordinated and erratic. Steele keyed his comm unit. "All units, this is our chance. Execute Operation Wildfire at maximum intensity. Take back our cities." Across the globe, resistance cells sprang into action. In New York, a team led by Lieutenant Sarah Rodriguez emerged from the subway tunnels, catching the disoriented Kobali completely off guard. The aliens' energy shields flickered and died as their operators flailed helplessly. "Push forward," Rodriguez shouted, leading the charge down Broadway. "Secure those weapon emplacements." In London, Sergeant Donovan piloted his captured battle mech through the chaos of disorganized Kobali forces. The massive war machine, now free from alien control systems, moved with deadly precision. "This is Donovan," he reported, his voice tight with concentration. "I'm detecting a significant Kobali presence beneath Trafalgar Square. Looks like a command bunker, requesting backup for assault." As human forces made rapid gains on the ground, Admiral Chen faced a critical decision in Earth orbit. The Kobali fleet hung motionless in space, presenting an opportunity for total victory. However, Dr. Sato's urgent transmission gave her pause. "Admiral," Sato's voice crackled over the comm, "the neural disruption is causing a cascading failure in the Kobali ship's power systems. If we don't act quickly, we could be looking at dozens of reactor meltdowns in low Earth orbit." Chen's mind raced, weighing the options. Complete destruction of the Kobali fleet would end the threat definitively, but at what cost? The resulting devastation could render vast swaths of Earth uninhabitable for generations. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen," she broadcast to the Phoenix fleet. "New objective, disable Kobali power cores without destroying the vessels. I repeat, neutralize but do not destroy. Use precision strikes only." The human ships adjusted their tactics, targeting specific weak points identified by Dr. Sato's analysis. Surgical strikes disabled Kobali reactors one by one, averting catastrophe by the narrowest of margins. Aboard Verax's flagship, Lieutenant Commander Harper regained consciousness in a corridor filled with incapacitated Kobali. His head throbbed, but years of training kicked in. He quickly assessed his surroundings and realized the unique opportunity before him. "Time to gather some intel," Harper muttered, retrieving a data storage device from his equipment. He moved swiftly through the alien vessel, downloading vital information from unguarded terminals and sabotaging key systems as he went. As the battle progressed, Major Steele's forces encountered a new challenge. With most Kobali combatants neutralized, the question of how to handle alien prisoners loomed large. "Set up containment areas in Regent's Park," Steele ordered his London units. "Treat the prisoners humanely, but maintain strict security protocols. We don't know how long this neural disruption will last." Similar scenes played out in cities worldwide as human resistance fighters reclaimed their homes. The rapid shift in fortune was almost dizzying, but Steele knew they couldn't afford to let their guard down. In Mars orbit, Captain Gray's fleet completed their sweep of the red planet's space. The Kobali staging area, once a formidable fortress, now lay in ruins. "Bravo, Squadron, commence surface scans," Gray commanded. "I want every alien outpost located and neutralized, and keep your eyes peeled for any tech we can salvage. This is our chance to level the playing field." As the hours passed, Admiral Chen received troubling reports. Some Kobali ships were showing signs of recovery, their crews slowly adapting to the neural disruption's effects. "All units be advised," Chen broadcast. "We have a limited window to secure victory. Push forward with everything you've got, but stay alert. The enemy is down, not out." The warning proved prescient. Near the moon, a Kobali cruiser suddenly roared to life, its weapons blazing. The human ships nearby, caught off guard by the sudden resistance, scrambled to respond. "Evasive maneuvers," shouted Captain Yamamoto of the UES Hiroshima. His ship narrowly avoided a barrage of plasma fire, the near miss leaving a scorched streak across its hull. The battle for Earth's future entered a new phase. Human forces pressed their advantage, but pockets of recovered Kobali fought back with desperate intensity. The fate of both species hung in the balance, with neither side willing to concede defeat. In the command center of Verax's flagship, Harper finally reached his objective. He inserted Dr. Sato's device into the alien mainframe, unleashing a flood of data that could turn the tide of the war. But as the download neared completion, a squad of Kobali soldiers burst through the door, their weapons raised. Harper spun to face the new threat, his hand reaching for his sidearm. The next few seconds would determine not just his fate, but potentially the outcome of the entire conflict. Harper's fingers flew across the alien console, his eyes darting between the screen and the doorway. The data transfer was at 95% when the squad of Kobali soldiers burst in, their weapons raised. In that split second, Harper made his choice. He dove for cover behind a nearby control panel, drawing his sidearm in one fluid motion. Energy bolts sizzled past, scorching the walls as Harper returned fire. His shots found their mark, dropping 2 Kobali before they could advance. The remaining aliens spread out, seeking cover of their own. Come on, Harper muttered, glancing at the console. 98%, 99%. The air crackled with weapons fire as he popped up, squeezing off another round. A Kobali soldier crumpled, mandibles clicking in pain. Finally, the console chimed. Transfer complete. Harper allowed himself a grim smile before focusing on the immediate problem of survival. Back on the bridge of the UES Hiroshima, Captain Yamamoto steadied himself as another near miss rocked the ship. "Status report," he barked. "Shields at 62%, Captain," his tactical officer responded. "The Kobali cruiser is showing signs of increasing coordination. They're adapting to the neural disruption faster than we anticipated." Yamamoto's mind raced, weighing options. "Engineering, reroute all non-essential power to weapons. We need to take that ship out before—" His words were cut off as Admiral Chen's voice came through on the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. We have a developing situation. Long-range sensors have detected a massive energy surge at the edge of the solar system. A new Kobali fleet has arrived, larger than the initial invasion force." A hushed silence fell over the Hiroshima's bridge, broken only by the distant rumble of ongoing combat. Chen continued, her voice steady despite the gravity of her words. "This new fleet is unaffected by the neural disruption. They pose an immediate threat to our victory. All ships regroup at these coordinates. We're implementing Operation Firewall. Chen out." Captain Yamamoto straightened his uniform, turning to his crew with steely tenacity. "You heard the Admiral. Helm, set course for the rendezvous point. Tactical, keep that Kobali cruiser off our backs. We're not out of this fight yet." As the Phoenix fleet regrouped, Captain Gray received new orders from Admiral Chen. His voice echoed through the command center of his flagship, the UES Artemis. "Listen up, people. We're implementing a triage system for the Kobali ships. Priority 1, permanently disable propulsion and weapons on any vessels showing signs of recovery. Priority 2, continue neutralizing those still affected by the disruption. Move fast and be thorough. We can't afford a resurgence here." Gray's officers sprang into action, coordinating the fleet's efforts with practiced efficiency. The space around Mars became a chessboard of military precision, human ships darting between their larger Kobali counterparts. On Earth, Major Steele surveyed the scene before him. The streets of London, once a battlefield, now presented a different kind of challenge. Incapacitated Kobali lay scattered across the city, their chitinous forms unnaturally still. "Sir," Lieutenant Rodriguez approached, her uniform smeared with grime. "We've secured a 5-block radius around Trafalgar Square. What are your orders regarding the aliens?" Steele's brow furrowed as he considered the situation. "Set up containment zones in Hyde Park and Regent's Park. Move the Kobali there carefully. We don't know how long this neural disruption will last, and I don't want any surprises." As Rodriguez nodded and turned to relay the orders, Steele's comm unit crackled to life. "Major Steele, this is Dr. Sato. I need to speak with you urgently." Minutes later, Steele stood in a hastily established field lab, watching as Dr. Sato gestured animatedly at a holographic display of Kobali neural pathways. "The disruption has had an unexpected effect on their brain chemistry," Sato explained, her eyes bright with the thrill of discovery. "It's not just incapacitating them, it's altering their aggressive tendencies. Look here and here." She pointed to specific areas of the alien brain. Steele leaned in, trying to make sense of the complex imagery. "What exactly are you saying, Doctor?" "I'm saying that when these Kobali wake up, they might not be the same enemies we've been fighting. They could be more docile. But," she added quickly, seeing Steele's expression, "the effect may only be temporary. We need more time to study this phenomenon." Steele nodded slowly, his tactical mind already spinning with the implications. "Keep working on it, Doctor. I'll make sure you have whatever resources you need." As he left the lab, Steele keyed his comm unit. "All unit leaders, this is Major Steele. New protocol for Kobali containment. Treat them as you would human prisoners of war. With caution, but also with basic dignity. We may be dealing with a very different situation soon." High above Earth, Admiral Chen stood at the center of the Phoenix Fleet's command hub, a holographic representation of the solar system floating before her. The approaching Kobali reinforcements glowed an ominous red at the system's edge. "Status of the captured Kobali ships near Mars?" she asked, her voice calm despite the tension in the air. "Captain Gray reports all targets neutralized, Admiral," her XO responded. "The ships are positioned as ordered, appearing to be a reserve force." Chen nodded, her eyes never leaving the holographic display. "Good. Now we wait for them to take the bait." As if on cue, a priority transmission alert flashed. "Admiral?" a communications officer called out. "We're receiving a data packet from Lieutenant Commander Harper. It's the motherlode, ma'am. Kobali Empire military strength, location of their homeworld, and ship design specifications." Chen's eyes widened slightly, the only outward sign of her surprise. She quickly scanned the incoming data, her tactical mind processing the implications at lightning speed. A small smile played at the corner of her mouth as she focused on one particular section. "Well, well," she murmured. "It seems our Kobali friends have a rather significant weakness in their FTL drive systems." She turned to her staff, her voice ringing with authority. "New plan, people. We're going to give our uninvited guests a proper welcome." As Chen began outlining her strategy, the massive Kobali reinforcement fleet entered the solar system, their sleek ships casting long shadows across the void. The next few hours would determine the fate of humanity, and perhaps the nature of their relationship with the Kobali for generations to come. Admiral Chen's eyes narrowed as she studied the holographic display. The massive Kobali reinforcement fleet had just entered the solar system, their sleek ships casting long shadows across the void. She tapped her comm unit. "Captain Gray, initiate Operation Mirage." "Understood, Admiral," Gray's voice crackled through the speaker. "Phoenix Fleet, execute maneuver sequence Alpha 7. The human ships began a series of intricate movements, appearing to retreat deeper into the solar system. Chen watched as the Kobali fleet took the bait, pursuing aggressively. A small smile played at the corner of her mouth. On Earth, Sergeant Donovan stood in the control room of the Andes Mountain facility, surrounded by a group of Kobali engineers. Their mandibles clicked softly as they worked, their usual aggression noticeably absent. "Remarkable," Dr. Sato said, observing the aliens. The neural disruption has completely altered their behavior. Donovan nodded, his eyes fixed on a terminal where one of the engineers was inputting data. And it might just save us all. Look at this. The screen filled with complex schematics and codes. Dr. Sato's eyes widened as she realized what she was seeing. Is that the incoming fleet's command structure and communication protocols? Donovan confirmed. He keyed his comm unit. Major Steele, we've got something you need to see. In orbit, Admiral Chen received the intelligence from Earth. She quickly integrated it into her plan, adjusting the holographic display. All ships prepare for Phase 2. On my mark. The Kobali fleet reached the predetermined area, their formation tight and aggressive. Chen's voice rang out across the comm channels. Now! The Phoenix fleet suddenly reversed course, engines flaring as they closed the distance to the Kobali ships. Simultaneously, a modified version of Dr. Sato's neural disruptor activated, targeting the FTL drive systems of the alien vessels. The effect was immediate and devastating. Kobali ships began to drop out of formation, their FTL drives overloading and shutting down. Chaos erupted across the enemy fleet as ship after ship lost power and control. On Mars, Captain Gray's voice echoed through the UES Artemis. Activate Operation Phantom. Let's give our friends a proper welcome. The captured Kobali ships near Mars sprang to life, their systems reactivated by human crews. They moved into position, creating a screen that confused the enemy fleet's sensors and sowed further chaos in their ranks. Gray's tactical officer reported, Sir, the enemy is breaking formation. Their command structure is in disarray. Excellent, Gray replied. Target their key command ships, precision strikes only. On Earth, Major Steele coordinated a global effort from his makeshift command center in London. All installations, this is Major Steele. Commence Operation Turncoat. Across the planet, teams of human soldiers and cooperative Kobali engineers worked to reactivate the aliens' ground-based weapons. Massive energy beams lanced up from installations worldwide, striking the vulnerable Kobali ships from below. Aboard Verax's flagship, Lieutenant Commander Harper fought his way through the corridors, dodging sporadic fire from the few Kobali still able to resist. He reached the main communication array, quickly inputting the command codes he'd discovered in the ship's database. Harper took a deep breath, then began broadcasting. Attention, Kobali fleet. This is Lieutenant Commander John Harper of Earth. Your invasion has failed. Your ground forces have been neutralized and your ships are being disabled as we speak. He paused, recalling Dr. Sato's insights on Kobali psychology. But it doesn't have to end in your destruction. We've learned much about your people in these past hours. We know you're more than just conquerors. Stand down now, and we can find a way forward together. Across the Kobali fleet, Harper's message played on every communication channel. Ships began to break formation, some attempting to retreat while others continued to fight. Admiral Chen saw her opportunity. All ships, form up on the UES Lazarus. We're going for their heart. The Phoenix fleet coalesced into a spearhead formation, driving straight for the Kobali flagship. The UES Lazarus led the charge, its advanced plasma weapons cutting a swath through the enemy formation. On the surface, Sergeant Donovan and his team worked feverishly with the Kobali engineers. Come on, he muttered, watching as the facility's systems slowly came online. Suddenly, the mountain rumbled. A massive energy pulse erupted from the peak, streaking into space. It struck the Kobali flagship, overloading its shields and leaving it vulnerable. Captain Gray's voice came through the comm. Admiral, their flagship is exposed. Permission to board? Granted, Captain, Chen replied. End this. Gray led his boarding party onto the alien vessel, fighting their way to the bridge. They burst through the doors, weapons raised, to find the Kobali fleet commander and his officers. For a moment, silence reigned. Then Gray spoke. Your fleet is in ruins. Your ground forces are contained, but it doesn't have to end in bloodshed. He lowered his weapon slightly. We're prepared to offer terms. The Kobali commander's compound eyes studied Gray intently. After a long moment he spoke, his voice translated by the humans' devices. You have fought well, humans. Perhaps Perhaps there is more to your species than we first believed. Gray nodded. We could say the same about yours. So what will it be? Peace or mutual destruction? The Kobali commander's mandibles clicked softly as he considered. Finally, he lowered his weapon. We will hear your terms. As news of the surrender spread, the remaining Kobali forces stood down. Admiral Chen ordered an immediate cessation of hostilities and began coordinating with Major Steele to establish protocols for handling the aftermath. In the days that followed, Earth began the long process of recovery and reconstruction. The captured Kobali technology promised to accelerate human scientific advancement by decades. Dr. Sato led efforts to understand and reverse the long-term effects of the neural disruption on the Kobali, working towards a solution that would allow peaceful coexistence. As the dust settled, humanity found itself not only victorious, but at the threshold of a new era. The Phoenix Fleet, once a secret last resort, became the vanguard of human exploration and defense. Earth had emerged as a formidable force in the galaxy, with advanced technology, battle-hardened forces, and a newfound unity. Captain Gray stood on the observation deck of the UES Artemis, watching as Earth grew larger in the viewscreen. The planet seemed different now, changed by the crucible of invasion and the triumph that followed. As the ship began its descent, Gray couldn't help but wonder what new challenges and opportunities awaited humanity among the stars.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.